Let's move on to another issue that may be arising fairly quickly here. There's a lawsuit that is making its way possibly to the U.S. Supreme Court on redistricting in Wisconsin. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so there's this big legal fight, which is kind of introducing a really interesting and critical legal question, is whether a political map can be so partisan, so tilted, so advantage one party that it violates the Constitution. And actually a federal panel decided that the Wisconsin map did violate the Constitution for that reason. Now we'll find out, perhaps as soon as Monday, how the Supreme Court is going to handle this. They have to take the case, but they can either issue a summary judgment for one side or the other, or they can, and this is sort of what most people expect, schedule oral arguments and really fully hear the case, which could be a groundbreaking case with huge political implications for both sides. I mean, this is a, you know, the legal questions are kind of murky, but the political questions are, to me, are pretty clear. This is a very tilted map we have in Wisconsin that kind of locks in Republican control of the legislature, whether it's a good or bad year for Republicans in statewide elections.
Right, and the Republicans would argue that a lot of that had to do with just where people live. They're concentrated in Milwaukee and in Dane County.
So they have a point, to a point. I mean, that is part of the problem that the Democrats have, is that they've their rural weakness, and their voters are kind of inefficiently concentrated and over-concentrated for the purposes of district elections in these urban districts, especially Milwaukee and Madison. So they have an inherent disadvantage in the map. But on top of that kind of natural disadvantage, which existed before the current map, it existed in the old map. But if you look at the districts before the new lines were drawn and after, you can see that on top of the natural disadvantage that Democrats have, the Republicans piled on an additional burden and made the lines that much more disadvantageous. I mean, basically, let's say if you go by presidential and gubernatorial voting, let's say, you know, just rule of thumb that Republicans out of the 99 assembly districts may have had a built-in advantage in 55 or 56 of them, and now they have a built-in advantage in 63 or 64 of them. So that's 7 or 8 more seats, and it's a 15-point larger margin in the assembly that they start out with at the beginning of an election cycle.